Hi, this is Eva Paradis coming to you with crime investigation in the presence of God. I promised you that we were going to go in and look through the crime of Jack the Ripper, and we shall. But before we do, I wanted to announce something. I have been going through about 25 crimes now. It's been about child pornography, it's been about terrorist attacks, it's been about drug wars, it's been about FBI murders, it's been about the assassination of a Swedish prime minister in the past. And the crimes are not only in the past, it could be in the present, or it could be like an attack planned in the future that I am able to find intel by working with God. The thing is that sometimes when crimes are committed, there is no information together for the police authority at that time, but there is still information in the ether, and that is when God can go back in time or go into any timeline and find that information and bring it back. And when he does, he can come in with information like names, places, dates, ways of how this person or this group is planning to do something or did something. So it's so evident, it is undeniable what he can do, and that is what I am here to share with you. And so I have my notebook, and this morning I got the download about Jack the Ripper, and I have to say that I was a little bit surprised. I also been able to do a criminal profile, a mental diagnostic of a serial killer. So I feel that this is a new ability coming in through God, giving me that download to be able to do that. So I do have a mental diagnostic on this guy. So I am kind of like a little bit of a profiler when it comes to Jack the Ripper, and I believe that because he's a prominent person, this is not a butcher that could be lost in records because he was no one when it comes to it. This is a doctor, he's a prominent citizen, and he could easily be found in records if they are still there. I have the name of the Jack the Ripper, his first name and his surname. I have the street address where he lived, and the thing is that it is not the same 150 years later today, but that street where he lived is in a certain area, a district in London, and God told me where it's situated. It's easier for the cops to do the work when they have a lot of different information. And it was said that he killed 5 females. That ain't right at all. It was said that he was doing this killing in 1888 and stopped. No, it's not right either, and we're going to speak about it just in a second. But before we do, I had another important download, as you could have seen on my Instagram or YouTube, about another serial killer that is active today, and we need to stop him. It's the Kansas murders. He's targeting young black females, and we need to stop this man as quick as possible. I have got 2 downloads so far today, and I hope to get the last download tomorrow with his name and so on, so that we may be able to kill him and stop him in his tracks. And I might be able to do a mental diagnostic of him as well. So anyway, so I'm going to explain a little bit about how he, from the Wikipedia records, how he did his killing. But before we do, I wanted to tell you a little bit of his background. So Jack the Ripper, I'm not going to use his real name as you can imagine. So Jack the Ripper, he's born in a family of a woman and a man, of course, and the man is in the British Army, and he's killed in some sort of war, I guess around 1850 something, because he's just a little boy when his father dies, and it kind of gives him an inward personality from losing his father in a young age, and it is from supposedly some British war, and his mom becomes a widow, and he's growing up not being talkative. He's a person that is quiet. He's a little bit inward, but nothing strange, and he doesn't give much fuss at all, and he doesn't do that in his grown up age either, and he starts his medical studies and becomes a doctor, and he's very skilled, and people look up to him in his professional work, and he's unmarried, and he's not that old when he starts to do the killing, and it has to do with an urge that he cannot stop, that he has no control over, and we are going to speak about that as well. So before we go into more details here, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the murders. So they find 5 females in a certain district. We are in the East End, it's the ghettos in London, it's the Whitechapel district, and that is where the street walkers are around. And there's a lot of pubs and stuff around in this place as well. And the thing is that the police thought that he was just targeting streetwalkers, but I don't believe that it had anything to do with it. I believe that it was the easiest victim for him to find, because there is no honorable woman out in the nighttime in a ghetto area without her husband. That is not going to happen in 1888. So that is why he could only find females, because as he approached a woman, he had a kind of a quiet, not fussy, not aggressive looking gentleman with a hat and a coat and a stick, and so I seen the stick, so and so nothing could give a pre-sense of being in danger to this female. So it was easy for him to bring them around the corner or to another place to pretend that he was going to buy service from them. So these 5 ladies turns up just in a few days a week between, and it's 5 cases, and it's then also spread out through a certain time. So it's the first killing, and then it's a new killing 1 week later, and then it's kind of spread out through a few months. And the thing is that this is a serial killer. Did he die? What happened? Why did he stop? Because the cops did not capture this guy. That could have been a reason for him to not be able to continue, of course. But the thing is that this is not the reason. So he didn't stop killing. But after these 5 murders, they got a little bit unsure, the cops, because they weren't used to having this kind of killings in the 88s. Not serial killers, and it was mutilations, it was horrific crimes. And then they started to notice more bodies coming up. It was like bodies with half the torso being discovered, and legs in the river Thames, and arms in another area, and so it kind of kept on going, and they discovered a boy that had the same mutilation. It was all remaining the same, because this killer, Jack the Ripper, he did the same thing to all his victims. He sliced, first of all, he sliced the throat with two deep, so he would have it open here, and then he took another knife and he sliced it right down, and that's why they thought it could be a butcher right here, so he could have an open stomach and pick everything out, intestines, inälvor, organ, and so on. I'm just explaining in Swedish, so I don't have to do two different videos. Yes, I am from Sweden. And he sliced the eyes open and the ears, and he, in some of the victims, he took flesh from the stomach and put on one side, and he took intestines, inälvor, and flesh, kött, skinn, and put on the other shoulder. It's a ritual. It's placing different things around the body and standing and pulling everything out of the body. It's an urge that is very different. It's not sexual arousement at all. It's something completely different. We have a predator here. We have a human predator here. So they do see similarities to these killings in few more victims, and that you can find on Wikipedia as well. But they are not sure, is it him or not? So they are, because they are not sure, they can't put him in the same. So, but it is the same person. And they thought that, they didn't have a criminal profiler back at that time, and they thought, it's just like a killing for 5 minutes. It's not a killing for 5 minutes. You can't do all of these incisions in 5 minutes and dig up everything from the inside of the stomach and cut here and there, and you could imagine changing knives, blood everywhere, and wiping off the blood, not having blood covering your steps as you walk. So no, it's not going to take 5 minutes. This is just the 1888. They didn't know what to do. They were not experienced with this, not like today. So I find out through God. We know his address. I know that his father was in a war. He was killed in British war in around 1850. And that made him, as a little boy, a little bit inwards. So he kind of wasn't in the social circle, but he was still a member of it, but he was very quiet. He didn't speak much, and some people might have perceived him as being shy. So he committed 19 murders. That is much. He was active between 1888 to 1892. 16 murders first, and then 3 more. So 19 murders. He was unmarried. He was pretty young. He had fair hair, tall, gentleman status, dressed with a high hat and a coat, and sometimes a stick. I saw a stick. I don't know if he had that with him when he was attacking. He was very popular among his college and friends. Very quiet personality, didn't give a lot of fuss in his social life. And he went into the ghetto district to kill. He killed men too. He dies later on, and that is why the killings stops. And let's look into the profile. There is a mental unstable in this person. It is a component in the chemical reaction that is inactive, pushes back a gene in the DNA to not function as it should be, and that combines a new personality to trigger from a certain emotion or a certain situation, brings up an urge that is undeniable. He cannot resist it, and that urge is an urge for blood. It is not sexual arousement, it is not domination, it is some sort of a control, divination, I would say, but it's not. It is a combination of creating immense fear and respect in his victims and begging for their lives, screaming. He's aware, but he's unreachable, but he's aware. He knows exactly what he's doing. But the urge is a human predator. He can only be stopped by another outside entering into this situation. He cannot be stopped from the victims claiming or screaming or whatever. He cannot be stopped. It has to be someone that is not in the situation that can stop him. That is why there was 2 victims back in the days that kind of survived. One of them died from infection a month later, but she could not give a correct picture, and there was another female that also survived an attack because another man came into the situation and was just passing by, so he saw everything, and that man ran away and they could not give a statement who he was, but he brought her to the hospital and saved her life. So this is why he's not being stopped from anything else around this time, because he works in the ghetto. It's late, it's no one else around, and no one is taking notice if a female is screaming around that area, because it's just street walkers out at that time, so no one cares. So there is nothing here. It's like when this personality, this chemical imbalance is activated, it pushes back, and it's blocked right there, and there is a gene that is not active at all. And that is why this chemical, it's almost like you have a drug habit. Something gets activated in that person when they have a drug habit or an addiction. It's very hard for them to be without that drug. They need to have something to calm down. But if they don't get that drug, they become something else. That is exactly what happens with this guy. But it is 1,000 times worse. 1,000 times worse. This is a killer, but it's not a killer in the terms of murder terms. This is a human predator. Jack the Ripper is a human predator. Stay tuned for tomorrow and the Kansas murders. Let's get it.